Hi, in this video I will show you how to use user management with item placement tool and in what cases it makes sense. Um, and let's start with the when it makes sense. It's quite rare that you need or should do multiple configurations. In the past it was more common because of font sizes, but with the latest releases of item placement tool that are more can better understand font size, it is not needed that much anymore. But let's get into what it actually is all about, and then also some pitfalls that many people normally fall in when doing this. So let's make a very simple configuration where we hide this foreign name, a very common thing to do. So now I've hidden the name, and no matter who logs into this system, that name will be gone. But it could, for example, be that the manager should still be able to see that. Of course, we can always deactivate, so it's never gone completely, but it should be that everyone but the user called manager should not have this field removed. So right now I'm manager, and it's removed for me. So what I can do is I can use the user system up here, and I can either include some users that should have this change, or I can exclude some users that should not have this change. So in my case, I could go in and say I want to exclude manager. And if I want a more advanced things, I could go in and make an entire user group called administrators and have manager and a few other people that should go into it. So either I can do that, or I can make. So I could go in and say that manager is part of administration, and let's say Bob Shown is also part of administration. So doing so, I would be able now to see also a user group. So I could either choose this, or I could choose this in order to get rid that manager should not have it. So user groups is just a way of when you add a new person to a specific group, the sales group or the HR group, it's easier to add them to the system. So user groups are normally the recommended way of using this user system. So what happens is that I'm excluding admins in order to get rid of this field. So if I do that, I still see the field. And then I could of course go in and make another configuration. Let's say that we for some reason have that the manager need this field as well. So I add that onto the main screen and put it in. I actually hit the wrong one, so let me do that once again. I want to have it below the federal tax ID and not the currency. So we have it in there. And if I say add, it will warn me about there's multiple configurations. So it might not be a good thing to go on doing because they can cause conflicts. Let's see what happens if I actually do it. In this case, you will see that I get the field in, but if I logged in as any other than manager as well, I would end up with having that everyone saw the foreign name again and everyone saw this new field. And this is because there's two different configurations now. Well, let's see them here. So manager will only qualify for this one. But a user, for example, Sophie, would both qualify for this one and qualify for this one. So it would only take one of them. They will never stack in any way because they can conflict with each other. One can say this field should be moved to this position, while the other could say this field should hide it. So if I am to do multiple configurations, I would need to go and say this should actually only include administrators. So these two do not cancel each other out. If you at some point end up with users having multiple of them, they will end up having just taking the first one the system meets. We assume that if you begin to work with multiple users and include and exclude the different things, that you keep track of what you do, and that can be very, very tricky if you want to do advanced things. But it's also tricky and dangerous to do such advanced things, saying this user should have these fields like this user should have these fields like this, in terms of support for them. So imagine you are on the call with one of your customers, you have done this, and you sit in front of your own system and where you are logged in as manager with the same database, and say, then go to the third field on the screen, and that could be a completely different field for their system. So word of warning is, don't overdo this too much. Again, in the old days when font sizes was a big problem, we did it a lot, and one user had one configuration, but getting multiple of them in there and not caring about them actually overlapping is a very dangerous thing to do. So with that, I hope you understand how you can actually do user management, but also that you need very specific reasons in order to actually go on and do it. User groups and groups in general makes more sense for some of the other functionalities in usability package, like for example the function buttons that are buttons, and multiple people can have multiple or need for different buttons. That makes total sense. Item placement tool, be very sure that you actually want to do this. But with that, I hope you enjoyed the session, and thank you for attending.